In the middle of the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. Navy is actively engaged in combat. Following an Iranian attack on 3 American guided missile destroyers, U.S. forces responded by hitting a series of Iranian military facilities. The escalation is physical and regional. The United Arab Emirates reports it is currently dealing with incoming Iranian missiles off its coast. But the rhetoric from the White House suggests a different reality. The president has claimed a ceasefire is in effect, dismissing the recent exchange of fire as a trifle and a love tap. Domestic markets are telling a different story. Since the start of the war, gas prices have spiked $1.50, and the crude market remains on edge despite the administration's efforts to quell it. The human and diplomatic toll continues to climb, with 13 casualties and hundreds of injuries reported. Currently, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Italy, waiting for Iran to respond to a one-page peace proposal. Claims of a ceasefire have not stopped the firing. The conflict has stalled, leading the administration with mounting costs and no articulated endgame. This is the Strait of Hormuz, the global energy market's primary chokepoint. Normally, 140 ships transit this narrow corridor daily, but Iranian aggression has paralyzed the route. The trade has vanished, leaving the strait empty. To break the blockade, the U.S. launched Project Freedom, a military operation designed to use naval power to force safe passage for commercial vessels. Against a pre-war baseline of 140 ships a day, the operation successfully escorted a grand total of 2. Despite the deployment of military assets, the U.S. has failed to negate Iran's leverage. The global supply chain remains effectively held hostage. The breakdown of the regional coalition began when the U.S. initiated the war without consulting its primary allies, Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Left in the dark, these allies became immediate targets for Iranian retaliation. Tehran bypassed U.S. forces, striking directly at Saudi and Emirati oil infrastructure. This direct retaliation created a severe diplomatic rift. Partners who were expected to support the mission instead withdrew, unwilling to provide the cooperation necessary for U.S.-led escort operations. Intelligence analysts note that without a unified, credible threat of force, there is little incentive for Iran to offer meaningful compromises at the negotiating table. By attempting to wage a unilateral war, the United States alienated the regional partners required to resolve the crisis. A high-stakes deadline is now approaching. This Tuesday, the president arrives in Beijing for a critical diplomatic visit to China. The administration's strategic goal for this trip was to arrive having already crushed the Iranian threat and reopened the shipping lanes. Those shipping lanes represent the ultimate leverage in a meeting with Beijing. The Strait of Hormuz supplies 30% of all the oil and gas flowing into China. Instead, the U.S. delegation is arriving empty-handed. Their coalition is fractured, and the energy supply remains frozen. This failure has not gone unnoticed by the Chinese government. A recent headline in the New York Times quoted a Chinese official who described the United States' current predicament as that of a superpower with a limp. The failure to secure the strait carries a geopolitical cost that outweighs regional instability. The world's leading superpower is arriving at the negotiating table with its primary